Hello and welcome to our first live stream for the week's news. First Ecocentric news live stream. We're trying this out as a way to have more of a conversation so that instead of me putting the news out there and then interacting with some comments and stuff, we can talk to you about the news and maybe you have questions, maybe questions for you. We could do a poll, stuff like that. So, that being said, let's get right into it. The time may change because there's not a lot of people here. Might do a different time next week. But first off, let's just talk about what we posted on Instagram. So, I'm using my laptop right now. So, on Monday, when we started the news format things, we posted that Save Our Soundside, which is an environmental group in Florida, has expressed hesitant caution on supporting Governor DeSantis' pro-environment policies and urge him to stand up for the environment fully and immediately. So what does that mean? Well, basically, Save Our Soundside is an environmental group in West Tallahassee, which is the capital of Florida in the United States, and they were worried that Governor DeSantis wasn't doing enough for the environment. I mean, he's against fracking. Here, let me say, Governor DeSantis supports financial support for water and land conservation. He supports our fracking ban, and he supports having more scientists in Florida's Department of the Environment. However, Save Our Soundside was really hesitant about supporting him because they didn't know what he would do from now on. I mean, I assume it's partially because he's Republican. Republicans tend to do less for the environment, but they have an open letter, and in that letter they admitted that, quote, "We didn't vote for you, nor did many of our rapidly growing 400-plus grassroots community advocates." However, they complimented him as environmental stuff, and it looks like they're hoping that he will do more for the environment. But what the real crux of the story is that I'll just read from her post. Quote, "Finally, they let him know that they view his reaction in response to the development of Forest Bay Estates, a 284 lot development, as an environmental litmus test to the governor, and that they will be watching his development very closely." So basically, summarized, an environmental group called Save Our Soundside is really cautious about supporting Governor DeSantis, the Republican governor of Florida, because despite his good policies, they don't know if he's actually going to enact them. So it'll be interesting. We'll keep an eye on that. I had no idea that Governor DeSantis was a supporter of the environment. He didn't really come off that way to me. And as a Republican, I had to kind of, just be a little more cautious. So, with that being said, what do you guys feel about that? Do you think that he's going to support the pro-environment policies, or is it just all talking points for politics and debate? What do you think? That's why I like this live stream. We can talk about it, almost like we're sitting next to each other in a room or something. So what do you think? Do you think he's going to actually put his environmental policies into action? Alright, so our next story is that unfortunately in Trump's administration there isn't much room for pro-environmental policies. That's just how the cookie crumbles. And with that being said, a few days ago some fossil fuel lobbyists were named for key environmental positions in the United States government. So we all know about Andrew Wheeler. For now you're the only one here. I think it's really too early to be live streaming, so next week we'll be sure to do something a little at a better time. But Andrew Wheeler, who is the acting head of the EPA, if you don't know it, Scott Pruitt was hit with a flurry of ethics investigations and harassment online, so he resigned. And then the second in command of the EPA, Andrew Wheeler, took his place. So now Andrew Wheeler is the acting head of the EPA. And unfortunately, really unfortunately, he was nominated by the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee to head the EPA. So basically, you have to be nominated by the president, or I don't know which, nominated by the president, then go through a Senate committee, go through a Senate hearing, and then you're nominated. So President Trump nominated him. The Senate Environment and Public Works Committee accepted him. So now he has to go to a vote in the Senate. We don't know when that is. Whenever it is, we'll be sure to cover it and talk about it a lot. But he's going to go for a vote in that committee, and hopefully he doesn't get the job, but it looks like he will because there's a majority Republican Senate. And then another thing, so I said before, if you're nominated by the president, and have to go through a Senate committee, and then you have to be confirmed by the Senate. So now, Andrew Wheeler's at the middle step, but there's a person who just entered, a new challenger has entered the arena, and so that new person is called David Bernhardt. I had never heard of him before, but apparently he's another fossil fuel and coal lobbyist, and he was nominated to head the Department of the Interior. Now, the former head of the Department of the Interior was Ryan Zinke, and he tried really hard to be like Theodore Roosevelt, being a cowboy and stuff, but his anti-environment, pro-business policies really showed through. So he unfortunately had to resign, similar to Pruitt, due to ethics scandals. He resigned a few months ago. And so Trump nominated his second command, David Bernhardt, to head the Department of the Interior. So now he has to go through a Senate confirmation, or a Senate nomination, then a Senate confirmation. And why is David Bernhardt bad? Why are we concerned by him? Well, he's a fossil fuel and coal lobbyist. I mean, you shouldn't manage an environmental organization if you have anti-environment policies. It's just as simple as that. You wouldn't allow you wouldn't allow an anti-American person to head the government. So why would you do this for the environment? But basically, David Bernhardt has such a conflict of interest with fossil fuel and coal that he literally has to carry around a card with him. He carries a card in his pocket that says all the conflicts of interest he has. It lists like different companies he's worked with, different groups he's talked to. That's how bad it is. So David Bernhardt is a no-go. Andrew Wheeler is a no-go. But unfortunately, in this Trump administration, no-goes for more ethics are go-goes. So it looks like he's going to be confirmed. Unfortunately, it's just another headache for the environmental movement. But yeah. So how do you guys feel about that? Probably not surprised, huh? Yeah, sorry, there's someone outside my window right now, so if you can hear that, I don't know how good the audio is. My microphone broke. Yeah, my microphone broke the other day, so I can't use that, unfortunately. Hopefully, audio quality here isn't too bad. So, this wasn't part of the news. I mean, it was part of the news, but we didn't have it as a news story. Just talking about the State of the Union. Now, if you don't know, if you're not American, once a year, the president is required by law to tell Congress how the United States is doing. Now, in the past, what they did is they wrote a small letter and they gave it to Congress. But now what happens is the president uses it to lobby. Yeah, it's a common thing to have conflicts of interest in the Trump administration. I mean, Trump has a conflict of interest himself. Matthew Whitaker for Attorney General. Betsy DeVos, she gets money from charter schools. It's just irritating. But anyway, the State of the Union, the president uses it every year to have a campaign speech that he knows the entire nation will watch, he or she. It's been he historically, but hopefully it'll be she. It's basically a campaign speech that he knows the entire nation is going to watch, so he uses it to his advantage. And Trump, in my opinion, except from Ecocentric, in my personal opinion, I think the speech is garbage. There's nothing to it. He didn't say anything he hasn't said before. He didn't say anything I didn't know. He didn't use facts a lot. He just made up stuff. So I thought it was garbage. But what's relevant to Ecocentric here is that he didn't mention climate change or rising sea levels or coral bleaching, Amazon deforestation, environmental justice, Green New Deal. He didn't mention any of that. And instead, he chose to praise fracking and oil. And so that was a bit concerning. Not surprising, for sure. Definitely not surprising, but very concerning. So, we wrote a response, and so I'm going to give that response. So, yesterday, February 5th, which would be 4 days ago, February 5th, the President of the United States gave a customary yearly speech called the State of the Union. And in it, a president will discuss how the past year went and what to focus on this year. We at Ecocentric are repulsed that the president failed to mention any environmental issues, instead praising natural gas and oil. Climate change is arguably the largest socioeconomic issue of our time. It has already cost the US government $350 billion. According to some reports, it will cost the government hundreds of billions of dollars in damage each year. By 2050, the amount of climate migrants could reach 1 billion, which should alarm the president since he has consistently taken an anti-immigration stance. 9 of the 10 hottest years on record have happened since 2005. The occurrence of 100 and 1,000-year floods, as seen in the destructive hurricanes of the past years, is getting more and more common, taking the lives of innocent Americans. Mr. President, if you truly care about the nation, you would admit that scientists who have spent their whole life studying climate change are smarter than you, and you would take bold action to address this crisis. Your failure of leadership is morally incomprehensible, and we hope that this year you come to your senses and act on the largest crisis we face right now instead of making ones up. So that was something I wrote a little out of anger, honestly, for the president. I was really upset that he didn't mention the environment, so I wrote that, which is Ecocentric's response to State of the Union, and obviously he's not going to see it, but I was hoping that some of the other environmentalists in the world would see it and take action. So, did any of you guys watch State of the Union? I think Cassie, you did, but V, did you? There's a bit of a lag too, so like I'll say something and then a few minutes later I'll see your response. That's a bad thing about Instagram Live, so oh well. Anyway, while you're typing, or if you're not typing, I'll just move on. Our next story goes to Michigan, which I believe in the blue wave of 2018, the governorship turned from Republican to Democrat. So that Democratic governor, who's named Gretchen Whitmer, a few days ago, yeah, it was pretty boring. It's pretty bad. The Democratic governor, a few days ago, signed multiple executive orders, including creating new offices for environmental protection and joining the U.S. Climate Alliance, which would be the 20th state to do so. However, Michigan Republicans voted against the orders, starting a political battle. So the Michigan governor is trying to have some mild, comparatively mild reforms. There was no Green New Deal. There was no Democratic Socialist ideals. It was just joining an alliance of states against climate change and expanding the power of Michigan's Department of Environmental Protection, the equivalent in Michigan. But the GOP voted it down. They apparently don't want environmental protection, which is not even, it's not a partisan issue. I mean, I'm arguably a Democrat, but it's just so obvious that the environment is being destroyed. So, Michigan's GOP are now bad. The governor, Governor Whitmer, and the Michigan GOP is now battling over new environmental legislation that would seem obvious and practical to many, making Michigan's Environmental Protection Department more efficient, educating the public, and joining a statewide alliance on climate change. As of writing this, and as of saying this, there's only bipartisan bickering, but we'll let you know if anything changes. So, just more of that. It's strange that it's bipartisan bickering now, because again, it's the environment. I mean, if Michigan's government is trying to pass a Green New Deal, a Democratic Socialist Green New Deal, yeah, okay, I don't agree. I think that Republicans should have accepted that, but I don't understand where it came from. This is just petty, honestly, if I'm being honest here. It's just trying to stop the powers of the Democratic governor on some pretty obvious things. So the big story of the week, the breaking story, is that the Green New Deal legislation battles begin. We are going to be fighting for the Green New Deal starting 2 days ago. So basically what happened is that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in the House and Ed Markey in the Senate introduced a House resolution. Now, a House resolution is not a law. A House resolution is just something that the House passes to say that they're going to pass something later, or an agreement or something like that. Like, there's a Senate resolution a while ago that stated the press is not the enemy of the people. That's not a law. It's not a law that the Senate passed. It's just an agreement by the Senate. And so what AOC and Ed Markey, AOC is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, if you're not familiar, which I know the people watching this are, but still. AOC and Ed Markey proposed a House resolution for the Green New Deal. And I read it. It was only 14 pages, so you can read it as well. And it seems pretty straightforward. I mean, they're calling for 60% reductions by 2030. They're calling for zero emissions by 2050. They're calling for more community solutions, environmental justice, jobs for everyone. They mentioned economic and security threats, which I mentioned in Ecocentric's response to the State of the Union. And yeah, as of now, it has 73 congressional supporters, which is good. And many 2020 candidates, such as Cory Booker and Kamala Harris, support it. When I say 73 congressional supporters, that means there are 73 people who have said that they would be interested in supporting a Green New Deal. But this specific House resolution has 60 co-sponsors. That's kind of crazy. That's 1/4 of the more than 1/4. Wait, no, I'm doing the math wrong. It's more than 1/4 of the United States House of Representatives that support this from the start. However, Nancy Pelosi, being the questionably Democrat, arguably Republican that she is, said that she doesn't support it. She's called it just the green dream, which is, maybe it is a green dream to make sure the United States doesn't have to spend $500 billion a year on coal and health damages. Maybe it's a green dream to not want a billion climate refugees by 2015. Maybe that's a green dream. But I don't know, it seems like a pretty common sense dream to me. So, hopefully this Green New Deal passes. The House resolution is the first part. And for me personally, and for many other environmentalists, the Green New Deal is a litmus test for 2020 candidates. So, as far as I know, Kirsten Gillibrand supports the concept of it. Bernie Sanders, who hasn't announced running, but let's be real, he's going to run, has announced support for it. Cory Booker supports it. Kamala Harris supports it. Beto O'Rourke, who hasn't announced he's going to run yet, if he decides to run, supports it. Who else? I actually have a whole spreadsheet about this. Many 2020 candidates currently support a Green New Deal, which is good. It means that we finally got that litmus test out of there, kind of like Medicare for All. Tulsi Gabbard supports it. Julian Castro supports it. Joe Biden being, again, like Nancy Pelosi, arguably Republican, doesn't support it, but he supports renewable energy, so interesting. Yeah, all that stuff was just a dream, but it came true. Having a House woman speaker, Miss Pelosi, was also a dream, but we managed to get you there. So, I'm going to read a section of the Green New Deal right now. It's actually very short, only 14 pages, like I said, so you should be able to read it. Let's see. Here's the good part. Quote, whereas, because the United States has historically been responsible for a disproportionate amount of greenhouse gas emissions, having emitted 20% of global greenhouse gas emissions through 2014, and has a high technological capacity, the United States must take a leading role in reducing emissions through economic transformation. That's good. That puts the United States, the responsibility on the United States to act on this and pass the Green New Deal. I can't say this enough. Please read the text. It's very, very fascinating. Read a summary as well if you like. I watched a video, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was on MSNBC not too long ago, a few days ago, explaining it and explaining other policies. So please, keep informed and go check it out. Next story. Let's see. Second last story of the week. We're getting to the end. These videos will probably only be half an hour. So, yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube and you want to see next week, just budget like half an hour. It probably won't be at 9 a.m. again. I think that was a bad idea. Maybe like 11 a.m. PST. But yeah, these videos will be a little later. So, Australia is closer to meeting the Paris Climate Accord goals, which are to cut carbon emissions about 30% by 2030. This is surprising, but very hopeful. It's very, very encouraging, because Australia and the United States are very, very similar countries. Former British colonies, which obviously has a large impact, try to decimate the native population, have around 17 to 20% of their energy coming from renewable energy. Very conservative government, center-right nation. They're very similar countries. I can go on and on, actually. And so it's hopeful that Australia is close to meeting their Paris goals, because it means America can do the same. I mean, it's if this very similar country can do something, we can do it too. So why or how is the Australian government close to meeting the goal? Well, basically, the Australian government is close to meeting the Paris goal because of, drumroll please, wind and solar. The heroes of the environmental movement. Wind and solar energy is becoming more prevalent in Australia, with lots of rooftop installations and many gigawatts of power being installed. I believe it was 7 gigawatts of renewable energy was installed in last year. Yeah, Australia's healthcare. So if you get bit by one of a million snakes or spiders, you're good. And this is not me gloating, but notice how there's no nuclear. They're about to meet their Paris goals, but there's no nuclear energy. For you nuclear fanatics, we don't need nuclear. We don't. There's just no need for it. I mean, I'm not against it. If a nuclear plant installs, I'm not going to get shut down, but there are better options out there. I mean, if I'm starving, I'll take rations, but I'd much rather have a nice meal. So nuclear is not necessary for tackling climate change. Forbes, I don't know how much being paid by nuclear executives, but it's not necessary. We don't need nuclear. Just we need wind and solar and geothermal and what's the other one? Hydropower. We just need those. And tidal energy, if you can get those. So that's Australia. Australia hopefully will be a what's the term? Hopefully a model case for America, in that we can easily move past our past. Just a quick note, go follow us on Twitter. Go follow us on Twitter. We made a Twitter account, and we only have 3 followers. We have 40 subscribers, 400 Instagram followers, and 3 Twitter followers. So if you see this after the stream or something, go follow us on Twitter, at Ecocentric. So our last story of the week is about Rhode Island. And we didn't cover this during the week, because there are far more interesting and relevant stories to cover, like the Green New Deal. But apparently, Rhode Island is considering a ban on plastic straws and a ban on even offering straws. Let's see. So, Rhode Island introduced, this is from thetakeout.com, Rhode Island has introduced legislation that would outright prohibit restaurants from providing plastic straws unless customers specifically request them. I see. And it occurs out on a $25 fine. That's pretty great. That's a great start. That seems like perfect legislation to me. It's actually really good. What do you guys think? The argument around plastic straws. Okay, there's so many, there's so much misinformation about plastic straws, because they take the world by storm, and people don't know what they're talking about when there's a large thing happening, like the Green New Deal. But okay, so plastic straws. I'm gonna go over a couple arguments and explain why this is good. And if you like, you can type in the chat or in the comments why you agree or disagree with me. So let's start with the obvious environmentalist argument. Disabled people need them. Well, okay, so disabled people need wheelchairs as well. So give them to them when they need them at a drugstore. Give them 1,000 plastic straws. How much do they need? Hospitals need them, okay? Give hospitals 1 million plastic straws, as much as they need. When it comes to healthcare, I don't hold back resources. Take as many plastic straws as you want. Take them all for healthcare. But the percentage of people who need plastic straws and don't get them is small. And if you look at it, about 7% of all plastic is plastic straws and stirrers. Now you might have seen a number published by Bloomberg that said 0.04% of plastic is plastic straws. That's weight. So have you ever used a plastic straw? If so, was it heavy? Could you carry like 1 million of them and be fine? You could, because plastic straws are super light. Of course they represent 0.04% of the mass of plastic straws, or of all plastic. Obviously, it's a no-brainer. They're super light. But they also represent 7% of all plastic. And they're the 8th most common item found in plastic cleanups. So plastic straws are not like just little things to dismiss. I actually wrote an op-ed about this. So plastic straws is actually pretty important to ban. Yeah. Alright. Okay, Cassie. That's some mid... Yeah, there's a lot of arguments out there. So, I think that what Rhode Island did is a pretty good compromise. They aren't going to allow you to have plastic straws unless you specifically request them. So, for the disabled people argument, then, if you need plastic straws, you just ask them for one. And if restaurants are found to be giving plastic straws when they shouldn't, they're fined $25. That seems like a reasonable price for me. I mean, I wouldn't say you need to fine $500 for a plastic straw. So, I mean, what is it? $25 seems pretty fine to me. Very, very interesting. And if you're watching this on YouTube, all of our articles will be in the description below. So that is all for me. Does anyone else have any questions or comments about the news from the week? Any stuff you think we should cover? I mean, we'll only have one viewer right now, pretty much. One active viewer, but does anyone else want to say anything? While you're typing or while you're not typing, I just want to say, follow us on Instagram, @Ecocentric. Follow us on Twitter, @Ecocentric. Follow us on YouTube, where's Ecocentric Media on YouTube? So YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, follow us. We're expanding on each of those platforms. We're doing better things like this live stream. And next week, I do want to live stream again. I really like this, actually. I really liked live streaming. But it probably won't be at 9 a.m. I don't think we'll do it at 9 a.m. again. Because it seems like no one's awake. So maybe like 11 a.m. PST, which is like 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. Eastern time, which is 7 p.m. London time, which is 8 p.m. Bavarian time, which in Bavaria it's still 1989. So, just kidding. That's all for me. Yes, Cassie, the active viewer. So that's all for me. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the live stream. If you didn't catch us live next week, because I probably am going to do it again. So yeah, let me see if there's anything else in here that I can do. Alright, yeah, this looks fine. Alright guys, so you know what, I'll do the usual intro. I'll do the usual outro. Thank you so much for watching this video of Ecocentric. I forgot the outro. Thank you so much for watching this video of this Ecocentric video. If you like it, please be sure to like, subscribe. I messed that up. Let me try one more time. 3rd time's the charm. Thank you so much for watching this Ecocentric video. If you like it, please be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps us out. You can find all the articles in the description below. Well, that's all from me. And I'll return to save the world. See you next week. Bye, guys.